Welcome to Camp Content, the podcast where we explore the cutting edge of content marketing in 2024. I'm thrilled today to have Chen joining us. He's a serial entrepreneur and visionary co-founder of PickFu, an innovative consumer insights platform that helps businesses make informed, data-driven decisions quickly and affordably. It's a super cool product. I'm really interested to talk about it, actually. With a rich background in electrical engineering and computer science from UC Berkeley, complemented by an MS in engineering management from Santa Clara University, Justin has revolutionized access to its enterprise-grade consumer research, making it accessible for companies of all sizes. Gotta love that. From managing a global remote team to balancing his role as a devoted father, Justin's journey is a testament to his entrepreneurial spirit and dedication to integrating work-life balance. So let's jump right in and talk about how Justin's expertise in consumer feedback is enhancing content strategies across the globe. So thanks for coming on the show today, Justin.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Molly.
Yeah, no problem. No problem at all. I am excited to have this conversation. I really like your product. I've been checking it out. And so let's talk a little bit about your business. Let's talk about PickFu. How many years have you guys been in business?
So my co-founder and I first built it back in 2008. So it's actually been around for a really long time. As you mentioned, we've run a lot of different businesses, and we built PickFu as a side project when we were building a different business because we had a need for some consumer research. So being engineers, we decided, instead of going to a coffee shop to get feedback, why don't we build a digital focus group so that we could sit at home and not actually talk to anyone? And so that's kind of where it came from. And we threw it up online, and we figured other entrepreneurs would get some benefit from it. And we slowly evolved it over the years as we were running our other business, and it started growing, and it hit a tipping point where it made sense to pivot all of our attention over to PickFu, and that was probably about 4 or 5 years ago.
Interesting. So we'll pause on the company stuff real quick. What do you think caused that shift?
It was a combination of finding the right product market fit. So I think in the beginning we thought it was going to be other self-funded scrappy entrepreneurs. Great, we're one of those where it's a great audience, but like they don't have a lot of money. Then we had a lot of authors, self-publishing authors testing book titles and book covers. Also great people, not a ton of money, nor are they publishing a lot of books with a lot of frequency. So It wasn't really until e-commerce found us. So a lot of people selling on Amazon, where they're doing a ton of different products. There's a lot of decisions they're making that have a lot of time and investment component to it. So, before you order $50,000 of the product from China, maybe you should test the product design, the packaging, the branding, your marketing imagery, all that kind of stuff. So we really found the right customer that would have a very high recurrence of usage. It is a usage-based product. And so that really started, bending our growth curve. And so we started leaning much more into marketing to that audience.
Super smart. Okay, so how many employees are there, or how many people work with PickFu?
We're at about 18 now, fully remote all around the world. So I'm here in Los Angeles. My co-founder's up in the San Francisco Bay Area, but we have people all over LATAM. We have people in Europe, South Africa, Kazakhstan, like really all over the world.
That's amazing. And what is your user base, or your is it users or clients? How do you?
Yeah, users and customers. Yeah, it's very interesting. And part of the reason we went so global was because we started seeing a very global usage. So probably about half of our people are in the US, half of our customers are in the US, but the other half are in China and Europe and Latin America, because when we started, it was a pool of US consumers that we were giving the feedback from. And so if you can imagine, if you're not from the US, but selling into the US, that's even more valuable to get that kind of feedback. And so that's why we started getting a lot of usage outside the US. We wanted to have a team that reflected the global nature of our customer base. Now we're also, we have respondents in other countries as well, in Germany, Mexico, Japan, kind of a bunch of different countries. And so we're really trying to enable anyone in any country to get feedback from any other country, despite any physical or language barriers.
You guys are like the new United Colors of Benetton. You're just connecting the whole
world
out here. Yeah, you can use that. I'll give that one to you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's super cool because marketing is very different. Like I live in Costa Rica, part of the year, and like marketing in Latin America is wildly different than marketing in the United States, or North America, if you will, it's very, very different. And so I would imagine that for international resellers, that's like super important to test things because they, what's going to work in the United States is not going to work in Costa Rica.
That's right.
It's a whole different planet, you know? Fascinating. So let's talk. What is PickFu for the people who are just logging in? Break it down. What is it?
Sure. So we say it's a self-service consumer research service. You could think of it as a digital focus group where you could ask really simple questions to get feedback from your target audience. So we're going to go out and we're going to find the people. We're going to incentivize them to answer your questions. So the simplest use case that we started with was just preference testing, maybe 2 different logo options. And, almost everyone can relate to that. So maybe you have a designer, maybe use 99 designs, but you have a couple different logo options. You want to know which one's best. So you put it up on PickFu, you say, hey, which logo is best for a gardening service? Put a couple options. Our audience is going to immediately come and vote on it. And more importantly, they're going to give you written explanations why. And that's actually where the true nuggets of insight are, because now you're going to understand maybe the font doesn't resonate or the color or the imagery. And now you can go back to your designer and say like, hey, let's try it with something else. And it's so fast, typically 15 minutes that you'll get, 50 responses that you could sit down with your designer and just iterate throughout the day. And now when you launch, when you print that logo on something, that it's going to resonate. You're not going to offend anyone. They're going to like the font. The colors are going to resonate with your brand. And it just really de-risks a lot of investment. So we like to say test before you invest, because a lot of times we get people coming to us to optimize marketing imagery. Let's say you're selling on Amazon. You want to improve your main image that's in the search results, and you compare it against your competition just to get feedback. And a lot of times the feedback that they read through is actually, well, your packaging is worse than your competitors, or your branding sucks, or your product just doesn't look great, or all these things that you probably could have got that feedback earlier in the process. But now that you're just waiting till optimizing the marketing aspect, it's kind of too late. Now you're sitting on a bunch of product that's not going to move. And so we really try to emphasize this hypothetical testing as early in the process as possible, so that you're not getting negative reviews or you're sitting on, thousands of dollars of unsold inventory.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because when you said that, it reminded me of this logo that I saw recently that was very Georgia O'Keeffe-esque, if you know what I'm saying. And it was like a Toxic Avenger green and brown because it was supposed to be earthy. And it was like a women's thing. And I was like, don't even put my name anywhere near that thing. Like, are you kidding me? And they put out a poll and they were like, who wants merchandise? And then 2 days later, they were like, we get it. It was a resounding no. I'm like, no one's walking around like, I'm only supporting this because I want to support women, but like I even offered to redesign it for them and everything because I mean, the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But if you're selling a service, you better let go of that beauty and think about what it is that people want, not what you want.
That's right. Yeah, and I think more entrepreneurs or anyone doing their work need to have the humility to get feedback. I know that as creators, we can often be very tied to the decisions that we make. And that's really the first step, is just being open to the feedback. The next step is starting to find ways to gather the feedback. We had a funny story of an author who came to us, and he actually was working with an editor and a publisher, but he came to us because he really disagreed with their book cover design. And so he wanted to use us to prove that his design, it was a book about visiting every country in the world. And so he had all these, a collage of photos that he had taken, which, were all very dear to him. So he wanted this collage of photos to compete against the publisher wanted to just do like passport stamps, which are a little, more tasteful. And he's like, no, mine is so much better. And I'm going to use PickFu to prove it to them. And it lost, and it kept losing. He kept trying to change it. Like, so maybe like blend theirs and mine. And like, he just kept trying to Photoshop it, and it kept losing. And so he's like, all right, fine, I'm just going to use the publishers. And then it went on to become New York Times bestseller. And so he's happy. Ego may have been hit a little bit, but, in the end, the market spoke, and they didn't want to see his scrapbook of photos. They wanted something a little bit more tasteful.
You know, as you're saying this, it makes me think like this would be an excellent tool for agency owners because I know all the time we design beautiful things and
Yeah.
websites, logos, whatever, and then the client's like, "Well, could you put a drop shadow on the, and you're just like, "Oh, kill me now." And like you built this beautiful responsive website and they're like, "Can you take out the movement and take out this and take out that?" And you're like, "Congratulations, you're now the proud new owner of a Word document." You know what I mean? Like super great that I'm working with you, and it's hard as a designer, especially in the corporate world. You get hired because of your design expertise, and then 12 different CEOs designed by committee just rip you to shreds, and none of them have any design experience. They have no idea what they're talking about. So I know I can see how defeating that is for a lot of people in the corporate space. But as an agency owner, man, how cool would it be to say, "Hey, listen, just for fun." I tested our version and your version of the logo, and this is what the people have said. And I because saying I've been doing this a long time doesn't cut the bread. You know what I'm saying? Like you're like, trust me, your vagina shaped logo sucks. I don't know how to say that in any other way than like what I'm saying. But maybe if people could just show data and say, hey, we tested this, it kind of makes you seem more valuable as an agency owner. It seems you're really invested. And then you don't have to push out some content that you really don't like. Because at the end of the day, like we take that personally as a reflection of us. Right. I cringe sometimes when I see some of the stuff my clients picked and I'm like, take our logo off of that, So I would imagine PickFu would be a great tool in that arena.
Yeah,
Do
I'm glad
do
you
you
brought that
have
up. Yeah, we do have a lot of agencies that use us. We in fact have an agency directory that highlights a lot of our customers that are agencies. But we hear them using it exactly like you said. Like we heard of someone where they'll have a client meeting, they'll start the PickFu poll at the beginning of the meeting just to show what they did, maybe against like the existing work or something like that. And halfway through, by the end of the meeting, it's already done. And it's like, hey, there's no magic here. Like these were actually actual people. We didn't game the system. And they're all, of course, pretty much always choose the agency one, right? Because like you said, like, what you guys are doing and you're more in tune with what the customer wants. So it's a great way to prove to your client or to your boss, who also may meddle in things like that, that they're on the right track for sure.
super interesting. I hope a lot of agencies are using it. I know I'm going to use you even for my own sake, because I know sometimes there's things that I like because I'm more of an artist. And then what people actually like is something else. And I'm like, well, geez Louise, there's no hope for humanity, but I'll give the people what they want. So sometimes you get it wrong too, right? Like you're not always right,
Yeah.
even if you have been doing it a long time.
Well,
It just
and
doesn't.
I think what's been nice to see with a lot of creative directors and creative folks who use us, and I think the refreshing thing for them is that it allows them to try a lot of creative directions now, like experiment and just see
Yeah.
what hits, because you also don't know, right? You just like, hey, I want to try this crazy idea I had. Like, I know we're always pink, but like, why don't we go like black with this one or something like that? And like, hey, maybe it'll hit, maybe it'll just work, and you won't know until you try. And you definitely don't want to live test that kind of stuff, because it may fall flat, or even like ads that are going to be released. I mean, we all see ads that just are tone deaf that get launched, and you wonder, like, did anyone get any feedback on these kinds of things? And so we'll have a lot of ad agencies testing message resonance, like, hey, what do you think about, like, does this message resonate with you? Like, what are your key takeaways from this ad? That kind of stuff, because you want to hear it privately before it starts going viral on Twitter.
Yeah, that's the last place you want the
Yeah.
feedback coming in for sure. So I'm super curious, like when you started PickFu, did it always have the written element of the feedback? Because I would imagine, right, you could just say A, B, F, whatever, but the written feedback, that to me seems so valuable. So how do you get these people to engage and leave such valuable feedback? Like how is that structure set up?
Yeah. So we've always had the written feedback from day one, and we wanted it because it's an important way to gauge how earnest they're doing the work. And so we tap into the same consumer panels that a Procter and Gamble or Kraft might use when they're doing their longer form market research. So they'll typically use their internal insights team. They'll engage with a market research consultant, and they'll charge 5 figures and take 6 to 8 weeks to do something.
Right.
We'll tap into that same consumer panel, but we do it programmatically, and we have our own layer of data quality and audience targeting on top of all that. And so we pride ourselves really on data quality, and we kick out a lot of the respondents that come through. As you can imagine, if you incentivize anything on the internet, it's going to try to get gamed. And so we spend a lot of our effort trying to make sure, like, are you paying attention? Are you doing this? Are you just like trying to go really quickly through this? Are you copy and pasting? There's a lot of different things that we're looking for in addition to actually evaluating the actual written response. And so if you look at any of our responses, you'll see that they're quite in depth. I mean, we'll have some people writing like a paragraph, like explaining why they like this font over another font. And so, you get a lot of value just understanding their thought process there. And so we spend a lot of effort trying to curate that pool of people to make sure that it's the best people who are doing the job.
So I feel like it's pretty clear how large companies would find your service very valuable. They have so much to lose. They're spending huge dollars.
Sure.
But at the same time, small businesses, a $500 ad could be just as much as a $50,000 ad for a Coke or Pepsi, right? It's a lot of bread. So once people are using PickFu, what do they do with that information? And can they continue to work with you to get more guidance, or are you guys just like data analysis?
So we try to make it very self-serve and as low cost as possible. So we start at $1 per response. So you could go as low as 15 responses on something for $15. And so the way that we'll see a lot of people using it is iterating on any kind of creative that they're working on. So whether it is a product design or a marketing creative or an ad campaign, and they want to just like try different things, we'll see people run a few different polls in succession using the feedback as written feedback as a feedback loop. Sometimes they're doing AI generation and they want to get actual human feedback, because at the end of the day, it's not robots buying your stuff, it's actual humans still. So even if you're going to use AI to generate the content, you should still get actual human feedback. So we'll see a lot of people using it in that way. And they'll use it throughout whatever business they're doing. So like whether it's ads, maybe now they're working on like a backdrop for a booth they're going to have for something, or maybe it's packaging, marketing collateral, flyers. Once you start getting into the data mindset of, it's not just, I shouldn't just be asking my team or myself like what looks good. If we're starting a Slack conversation about something, like we should probably just run a PickFu poll. So one of the customers that we have is DuckDuckGo. They're the privacy search engine, and they use it on all the different things. So billboard ads, UX, marketing copy, like anything that someone has to make a decision on that you should have some feedback on, just run a PickFu poll for it. And because they're very data driven. And so at least you have data points, and you don't always have to choose the winner, right? Because it's still your decision. You're making the executive decision on something, but at least you have feedback. Like, okay, I know this lost, but like, I'm fine with all the objections, but that's the direction we want to go in. Cool. That's your decision, right? You're going in with your eyes wide open.
I mean, I'm definitely, I was thinking about using it for podcast logos and things like that, but I'm really thinking about ads, because like I'm not an ad man. I have no idea. I can make beautiful videos, I can write good copy, but ads are like this delicate balance of the image and the headline and this, and that is not my jam. That is not my jam, right? But I definitely have seen certain things work better than others, but I'm not an ad person. So I like the idea of like, even if I'm going to post a webinar, right? Something so simple like test a couple different cover art or, invites or whatever. I mean, it just seems brilliant to me, especially in this age where it's so hard to get feedback, because it's like, your friends and family will either not understand what you do at all or be way too nice about it. You know what I mean? Like there's like no middle ground, it seems like, but you shouldn't really trust them when it comes to business on either side of the table, right? And so you want real data. How are people going to receive what I'm putting out there? Because that's the one place you got to let go of the ego, right? Like your ego should be focused on like the quality of the work that you do and the quality of the service and how your customers feel after, and not like, the logo is orange, even though you want it blue. It's like, give the people what they want, man. It doesn't always mean it's what you want to give them, but that's the market.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned the friends and family thing, because that was part of the reason we built it. We had already been running our business for a couple of years, and you kind of tap out of the goodwill also. Like I think they just get tired of giving you feedback. And then, like you said, they're just like, oh, like you already know, like you've been doing this, like you're gonna make the right decision. Like, well, that's not helpful. Like, I actually wanted some feedback.
Yeah, rip
But then
the
again,
app,
they're
man.
probably not even your target audience. So like, whatever.
Exactly. So this is really cool. I was thinking too, I would love a job like that where I just got to like anonymously give feedback on things because I feel like I give too much unsolicited advice. So an outlet for that might be helpful for mostly my friends and family, to be honest. So you've got a lot of employees there. So I'm going to ask you a couple speed round questions. What's your favorite tool for productivity, especially managing so many team members? I know you said Slack, but
Yeah.
how else are you driving that engine over there?
So our big ones are Slack, Asana, and Notion. So that's a pretty good combination. We try to keep all the work conversations and things in Asana, so task related. Notion's great for just documenting things so that everyone in the team can see it, especially remote. You want it easy. There's Google Docs and things like that, but I think Notion is a little bit easier to browse and discover. Things get really lost in Google Docs a lot of times.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the main three, and then we'll have calls with Zoom and things like that.
Right on. I'm a big fan of Asana too. Oh wait, Asana? No. I'm a Trello girl, but it's all the same thing.
Yeah, similar.
It's all the same thing. I just found a CRM for Trello though called Crumble. That's $6 a month, and I'm like, that's pretty cool because most CRMs are like
Yeah.
$10,000 a month. I was like, hey, that's cool. All right, what is can you name a brand that is using consumer insights effectively, like the gold standard in data-driven decisions?
Let's see. So, well, DuckDuckGo is using it really well. One of our customers. A couple other brands that use us really well are Mary Ruth Organics. I don't know if you know them. They're like a up and coming direct to consumer supplement brand, but very beautiful brand, and like their products and like the imagery that they put out are great, and they do use PickFu to test a lot of those types of things. So there's a lot of really interesting DTC brands that are, I think when you come up digitally native, you're much more data driven than some of the more traditional brands. And so that's what's really catapulting, I think, a lot of the new brands is that it's kind of like mobile games. We have a lot of mobile game customers also. And I think the difference between mobile gaming and kind of traditional console games, like the old things you used to buy from Nintendo or whatever, is that they have to be data driven. So they're constantly looking at like their customer acquisition costs and like the engagement of their users and all that kind of stuff. And so that translates into how they pick their app icons. Like they're using PickFu to test out different app icons and App Store screenshots. And even as they're developing characters now, we have a lot of game characters that are game companies testing characters. Like, should the Vikings beard be big or short, or should he have an axe or a sword? And so a lot of this stuff is so fine-tuned now. By the time it hits you, you're like, that's a cool character. Like, it's already resonating with me because it was gathered with it was iterated with feedback.
Man, so there's really no business that couldn't benefit from using PickFu. I mean,
right now, like anyone that is doing anything towards consumers, could benefit from using PickFu. We need to focus our marketing efforts as a small team, so we do focus more on e-com, Amazon, and then a bit on gaming as well. So we do have a bit of mobile gaming focus, but I mean, we can't boil the ocean, but we're focusing on those two areas that have really good adoption so far.
Well, and it's like you said, repeat customers, repeat users is you're looking for somebody who's going to use it quite a bit. So I would imagine like graphic designers, from a smaller perspective, that could be really helpful. Brand agencies,
right.
Why not test stuff before you put it in front of a client? Even smaller agencies, podcast agencies. Anybody designing stuff, I think if you're a designer and you design stuff on a regular basis, that'd be a great application for a small business.
Yeah. I mean, especially now that it's so easy to create designs, like even for people who aren't designers, like people are using Canva to, like, I don't know anything about designer colors, but like I can make something in Canva. Now it may look horrible. And so like I need to test it with PickFu because I have no idea, what the color should be or anything like that. And so as things are easier to do, like you kind of need more testing actually, because like, you don't have as much expertise or sense necessarily of what the audience wants.
Yeah, there's a website called placeit.net or .com. And like you could literally type in things and it like generates,
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
It is pretty cool. A lot of those logos are not great, but it's a good place to start, right? It's like some iterations, and then sometimes I'll do that, and then I give it to the real designer, and then he makes it way, way better. But it's like instead of me being like a little circle next to the big circle, of like, what are you talking about, man? So I'll just run them through that. But it's wild how, especially for podcasts, it's wild how many resources there are, and just like AI, just because it can create something doesn't mean it's going to be good.
But I think what you just mentioned is a great process, because now anyone, you should still use the designer to create like the final version that's pixel perfect, but now we could all iterate on like different directions, right? Like, hey, do I want something with really blocky characters? Cool, I can just mock that up in Canva or something. And then I could just see like what people like. When I want to go with the one that I'm going to print on like 1,000 bottles, like I'll probably get a real designer to like create the high quality, high fidelity, like digital version. But like now you can anyone can experiment and see what's going to resonate.
Yeah, because I find for me, like I'm the CEO, whatever, but like I'm doing the onboarding with clients, and I'm a designer myself. I have a vision. I know what I want, and so. But I'm not a designer. Like I don't know how to use Photoshop. You know what I mean? I'm a Canva girl. I'm not trying to say I'm something that I'm not. But I can definitely mock something up, and then my in-house designer runs with it. But then I'm also not wasting his time when he sends me 5 things. I'm like, none of those were what was inside my head. Like let me just
show you and just drag some blocks around. Yeah.
Let me just give you a really terrible version of what I'm thinking, but it saves everybody a lot of time, me and him, even though it seems counterintuitive if I'm out here making mock-ups, but those take minutes, minutes compared to if he was in a Photoshop making 5 different drafts. That's company time. That's a waste of time. Well, Justin, I really appreciate your time today. I think PickFu is super cool. I'm going to definitely check it out. I know we have a affiliate link in the comments below. I think it's Camp Content. They get 10% off, I think is the
50% off your first poll with the coupon code Camp Content. So yeah, just sign up for free. So it's free to sign up for an account, and there's even a free onboarding poll so you can experience what it's like. And then when you go to run your actual one, you could use Camp Content and get 50% off your first poll. Never any subscription needed. So, use it whenever you have a need to test, and it's all pay as you go.
That's pretty cool. The savvy business person would say, I should white label this for other people, right? Like, I'll test your designs. Why not?
Yeah.
Right? They could be running it through and give you results. Interesting. Well, Justin, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was really fascinating. I'm definitely going to check out PickFu for some ads. I've been wanting to run a couple Google ads because they work well, but I have no idea what I'm doing. So I'm feeling a little bit more empowered. I'm going to go run a couple on PickFu and check it out. And the 50% offer is super generous as a first timer. So, thank you for that. I'm sure some of the audience will take you up on that.
Cool. Thanks, Molly.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we go, what's the best place for people to find you?
LinkedIn's probably the best place. I'm pretty active there, so feel free to follow or DM me there. And then, of course, go to pickfu.com, pickfu.com to check it out.
Awesome. That sounds great. Well, thanks again. Thanks for tuning in to Camp Content. Hope you found this content valuable and gave you some insight on how to test your ideas, products, designs, ads, and everything else on PickFu. Don't forget 50% off. You can't beat that. Camp Content, gang. Until next time, be excellent to each other, and I'll see you on the internet. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Camp Content. This is Molly.
And this is Matt.
And we are Heartcast Media, aka Camp Content, and we appreciate all of your support. If you found this content valuable, please comment on social media, LinkedIn, wherever you find us, and we will make sure to comment back.
And be sure to go on and subscribe and like on your favorite platforms, Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, you name it. Leave us that subscription, leave us that good review.
We'll love you forever. So until next time, be excellent to each other, and we'll see you next week.
Produced by Heartcast Media.
Thank you for tuning into Camp Content, hosted by Heartcast Media. We are a digital content agency focused on content marketing for businesses and brands. If you're looking to save time and be more consistent with your marketing and need a little guidance on what to say and how to say it and where to say it, we got your back. Book a discovery call today and let's talk.